about social media. We're called Social Media for Kids because the reason we came into being was some of the horrors that kids go through and put their parents and teachers and administrators go through with social media, which is, to my way of thinking, at the same time, one of the most miraculous and wonderful tools and technological advances that we have and our kids have. And we've got to be very careful about social media because to give you an idea, with current research is that 72% of the marketing dollars that telephone or cell phone companies, both the providers and the manufacturers of phones, are targeting third grade and below. Because that's where the expansion of the market is. There is not a kid in middle school, actually about 5th grade up, that doesn't have either their own cell phone or is not totally familiar with how cell phones work. So what we're going to talk about today is what is social media, what it means for adults, what it means as responsible parents, how you deal with, how you converse with, how you communicate with your kids in a world of social media. And I always like to start with the acceptance that our kids are light years ahead of us.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
I just want to say the reason why we invited social media for kids is that we've noticed that a lot more of our problems, mediations between kids, are not starting in school. They're starting on Facebook, or they're starting on Twitter, or someone took a video in the schoolyard and put it up on YouTube. So a lot of the differences that students are having are not necessarily starting in school. So they're starting online somewhere. And we also find that students are less respectful to each other online than when they're standing in front of each other. So because the person is not looking back at you, you can say, things that you wouldn't normally say to a friend in person. So, which is why we invited social media for kids.
And adults and kids think that there is anonymity online. And there is no anonymity anymore. Well, I'll start with how we came into being, okay? I was working with the president and founder of the company, Garnett Phillip, and her husband started and run a thing called Franklin Avenue Kids Day. And we raised money all year long, and this one day, everyone in the entire neighborhood is invited to bring their kids for free rides and cotton candy and that sort of thing. And one of the other volunteers on our committee was at that time an assistant principal of a middle school. And she came to a meeting wearing a collar. And we said, my goodness, what happened? And she was walking down the hall, coming out of the office. 2 young girls, 6th graders, were in a fight to the death. And like any good administrator, she went to break it up. One of the girls grabbed her and threw her against the wall, and she ripped some tendons in her neck. She turned to Garnett and said, Garnett, you run a social media public relations company. You know more about social media than anybody I know. Could you develop a a course for our kids to teach them about cyberbullying, about the effects of the internet. Garnett turned to me and said, "You used to be a college professor, let's combine forces and come up with a curriculum." Needless to say, a very short time later, we got approved by the Board of Ed because they knew how desperate everyone in the school system was to know about social media and kids' usage, adults. And believe it or not, even your young teachers are light years behind the students. One of the great things that we experience in the classroom is that every time we go into the classroom, we learn from the kids. We learn